Hey YouTube family, it's Humberto from GrayLaw TV, and several weeks ago I woke up and we were in the middle of a pandemic, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give my YouTube family some good news. Well, here I am today. Woke up, protest all over the nation. People are protesting the injustice that was caused, by law enforcement in murdering an individual in Minnesota. So there's protests all over. There's protests here in LA, Minnesota, New York, all the big cities. So I thought to myself, I'm going to give you good news. I'm going to dig out some good news. I'm going to try from an immigration perspective to change the narrative, to give you some hope. Hopefully I'll make your day. Let's do it. Let's get some good news. So a little bit of more good news. I've been talking before. I was one of the first immigration attorneys who started talking about waiver of interviews, because it's my experience. I have a practice here, and I give you what's not on the internet. I give you what's happening with me real time. So first bit of good news, USCIS and the consulates are finally reopening. I know you've been waiting 60 days now for your interviews to be scheduled. Well, it's going to happen, right? Immigration is reopening June 4th. So it's going to look a little different, right? There are restrictions. If you get called for your interview or biometrics, you've been waiting a long time, it's going to look different down there. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to USCIS.gov and you look on COVID-19 restrictions and things that you need to abide by. Face masks are one thing. You won't get in the building without a face mask. That's kind of obvious, right? Type of things that's been going on. You guys know the drill now. 6 feet, right? One thing that's interesting, you have to bring your own pen. They don't want to exchange any, touching in the building. So bring your own pen to sign your forms, do what you need to do. So it's going to look a little different. Again, check the USCIS.gov website. There's good news on there. Consulates are reopening. They haven't given us a specific date, however, okay? So you have to go to state.gov. Go to the website, the consulate that you're interested in knowing what's going on. You go to the website. They will provide you with information on when they're reopening. We'll see what happens. It's going to be different in terms of each location because, COVID-19 is different, in Italy. Right now in Brazil, there's a huge breakout. It's going to open slower than normal. Other places like Hong Kong, they've managed COVID-19. So that consulate may open a lot faster than a consulate, let's say, in Brazil. So check the website, get the information. Waiver of employment-based interviews, some family-based interviews, it's still going on. In my last video, I talked a little bit about, 4 such cases that I got in the last week or so, where the final interview was waived. Generally, under the old rules, all employment-based interviews were waived. There was really not a need for them to be interviewed, and traditionally, they waived them. Well, they took it away. Everybody had to be interviewed over the last 4 or 5 years, but now we're seeing that they're waiving final interviews. So again, I like to give you real stuff, guys. I had a client last week, and here's what they're going to do, so you may look at this. Had a client last week who got an RFE, that's a request for evidence, to submit just the medical exam. So we're going to submit the medical exam, and I guarantee you that case will be approved without an interview. Why? Because immigration's backlogged. They need to move these cases. They need to make it happen, and I think they will. I was right before, and I think I'm going to be right again. We talked a little bit about the good news of having more time to respond to certain applications. Notice of intent to deny, request for evidence, notice of intent to revoke. That's where you have a petition that's been approved, and let's say subsequently, they find fraud, then they issue what's called a notice of intent to revoke the petition, or if they find out that you weren't legally married at the time the petition was approved, or that you had, gotten a divorce, then they have to issue what's called a notice of intent to revoke. Also, there are time restrictions on time to file appeals. This is on the form I-290B. So what they're doing is they have extended again the time to respond. That's great news. So if you have a petition and you have a restriction in terms of time, and for whatever reason you can't get the evidence. I have one case where I need to get a DNA done for my client. The beneficiary is over in Europe, the petitioner is here in the US. How do I do that in 30 days? It's impossible. Well, here's what happens. If you have one of these time-restricted petitions to respond, and it was issued between March 1st and July 1st, you have 60 days from the date it was issued to respond. So that gives you a lot more time, right? So what I'm going to do with that one client, I'm able to get the DNA here, send it over to the U.S. Consulate abroad, have the U.S. Consulate call the beneficiary, come take the swab for the DNA, and hopefully that green card case will be issued. Good news on additional time to depart, satisfactory departure. Again, I was one of the first to tell you about that, right? If you have an ESTA, and that ESTA is about to expire or has expired, here's what you do. Now, I know what's happening now because I've had 5 clients get approvals of satisfactory departure. It was a little bit confusing before, but now it's very simple. There's a call number. I will put it in the description link below. You call the 1-800 number at USCIS, and you have to wait for them to give you a call back. They will call you back. You tell them you need satisfactory departure. They will then send the information to a local district office who will contact you by email, and they will indicate exactly what to complete and provide the evidence why you need additional time to depart the U.S., and they have been generous. These have been approved. Now, here's something interesting as well. Let's say you have an employment-based non-immigrant visa H1, J1, where your time is going to expire. If you timely file a request for extension of status or change of status, for example, to B1, B2, they will provide you with an automatic 240 days extension. It's automatic. Take advantage of that. That's great news. So even if it has expired, you can still apply, but make sure you apply before it expires. There's certain rules regarding that. Hey GrayLaw family, thanks for watching GrayLaw TV. Click below, like and subscribe. For those of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, let me know you're liking the content, and I'll keep it coming for you guys.